The Why Me Project, an exclusive presentation of Faith Strong Today.
I recently celebrated my birthday, and I had a goal. Thank you. I had a goal that I wanted to be fit before 40, and it didn't work. So my new goal, I thought maybe that I could write a worship song with you, or you write a worship song, put my name on it, and then that way we'd be able to collaborate somehow.
Wow, that's a good goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, my thoughts are, we can always make goals, but I'd write a song with you. It'd be fun.
Okay. All right. We are going to dive into a lot of things, Hollie, today, because we have from Integrity Music and Mitch Wong, my friend. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
I think we're going to talk a lot about faith and music, and especially a moment in life where you ask God that question, why me? But the first thing we like to ask is our skill testing question, and that is, Mitch, who are you and where did you come from?
Who am I is a big question. But I'm Mitch Wong, and I'm from Melbourne, Australia. So I was born in Newcastle, which is kind of Central Coast Australia, and then lived my whole life pretty much in Melbourne up until I got married to my wife, Steph, and we moved to Nashville 2 weeks before the pandemic began.
Oh,
wow. So that was an adventure and definitely unexpected. But we're actually really grateful that we made it in that window, because if we hadn't, then we would have been stuck for who knows how long. So it's been a wild ride, but I'm pretty much born and raised in Melbourne, now living in Nashville and loving it.
Well, kind of a blessing, you didn't have to make friends if you didn't want to. Like if you're an introvert, you could be like, oh, pandemic.
Which I am, which it actually was. It was like, I know a lot of, and I say this seriously, I know a lot of people didn't have a good time in stay at home, but for us, it was such a blessing because I had been traveling a bunch the years before, and we had never had a season together, just where I didn't have to go anywhere. So we had just a few months together at home in a new country, new city. We pretty much couldn't see anyone, meet anyone, but we had each other. So it was good. It was a good time.
Yeah, you and my husband would have been so excited not to meet each other.
Oh, yes. I feel like true introverts, they could relate so much, but they never will because they'll never talk about it.
Exactly.
So like most Christian artists, it seems as though Nashville, Franklin is the place to be. Is there like a Nashville of Australia, or were you just like, the Nashville of Australia isn't as good, let's just go to the real Nashville?
I don't think there is. It's a weird thing because I actually didn't know what Nashville was up until like 5-6 years ago. I didn't know it was a really like a hub for Christian artists and songwriters. And my wife did, though. And she watched the television show Nashville and just fell in love with the city. Like it became the number one city. And this was before we even dated. And then a whole lot of things, like a series of events happened, and I started writing songs in Nashville with Integrity Music. And I realized that, wow, this is actually such an amazing community. And it was so beautiful to be invited into that and to meet people who have the same passion for writing songs and for worship as I did. Not to say that there weren't people like that in Melbourne, but Nashville's this really cool place where people from all around the world get together and fly in. A lot of people live here, but a lot of people don't. And it's just a really cool meeting place. So it's really cool to be living here now.
Was it a hard adjustment going from Australia to Nashville?
Oh, yeah. It's both Western countries, but it's different. Like the culture is different. Two of the main things we had to mourn, apart from like not seeing our families all the time, coffee and food. The coffee culture in Melbourne is off the charts. It's
really
amazing. Oh my gosh. I kind of say this in jest, but I really do mean it. It's kind of where Starbucks goes to die, because they try to make it a thing and it just doesn't work in Melbourne, because everyone loves the secret little place that no one knows, but it's the best coffee. It's like, it's a constant competition of the best cafe in Melbourne. So we love that, and we're massive foodies. So that was a bit of an adjustment coming to the South. in Nashville where there's lots and lots of fried chicken, which is amazing, but there's only so much we can have. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's but there are things like I really love the Southern culture, the hospitality. I think that's such a beautiful part of the fabric of the city. And yeah, it's been really cool to just learn a new culture and make friends.
So you moved to Music City in Nashville, but there's this passion that you have for music. At what point did you realize that, oh, maybe I'm kind of good at this and I can make a career writing and doing music?
Good question. I think, and this relates to the why me question today, because I was thinking about that. I'm like, when I ask God, why me? When I think about that question, it's mostly to do with what did I do to deserve like such a blessing? I feel so blessed to be able to do this. And I feel like the 15-year-old kid in me, like in my past, would be jumping up and down, like losing his mind, because it's like songwriting is such a beautiful way not only to make friends, write a testimony into a lyric and a melody. I've grown up listening to people who I've gotten to meet and thank them for stewarding their gift from God. And it's just such a beautiful way of sharing stories with each other and doing life together. And when I ask why me, I'm like, all of the things that led up to that moment, it was such a beautiful journey. And to be honest, I didn't ever think I would be able to do this for a living. It was kind of this thing that started as a 15-year-old. I actually really wanted to be an author when I was 12. That was my first dream. I was obsessed with Lord of the Rings. Like, I can't even tell you how much, but that was my life. And I loved Narnia. And I just loved how there were these authors combining faith with literature and using language to inspire people. So as a 12-year-old kid, I used to write all these manuscripts and I would write these chapter books. And then at 15, my youth leader started to write songs, and he showed me a few really basic chords. And I'm like, hey, I just want to have a go. I want to have a go. We had a piano at home, so I just started, bashing away and writing some songs. And I think that dream to use language to inspire people through literature quickly found its way into songs, because it became this obsession. Like from 15 to 18, I would stay up late at night till 2 or 3 in the morning working on these demos, and no one heard them. I was just making them because I loved them. And I remember one of my dear friends, BJ Pridham, he essentially like taught me everything he knows. He was so generous. And I'm like, why do I deserve that? And he just had this profound gift of seeing gold in someone and going, I can recognize a gift in you, and I want to put fuel on the fire. So he was so generous in teaching me how to play piano and how to write songs. And eventually that led to one of the songs demos that I made, I sent to him, and he sent it to our pastor from Planet Shakers, Russell Evans. And that just led to my songs that had been written in my room just for myself and maybe for a few family members. Then it was kind of taken from that to writing for church and writing for a congregation. And it's just been really cool to see that grow and to see all the different ways that God works through songs and through testimonies to encourage people and to lift them up. So it's been really, I still have to pinch myself. I honestly do. And it's just, I feel blessed. It's the dream job. I don't think many people can say that they get to do their absolute dream job, and I'm just so blessed. Yeah.
I have a few questions. Number one, you moved to Nashville. You're writing with maybe some of your heroes. There's that saying, never meet your childhood hero. Is that true for you?
Oh, meeting my childhood heroes changed my life in the best way.
Okay. So it was a good thing.
It was the best. I cannot even tell you. Like, I'll mention a few of my heroes. One of them is Chris Kilala from Jesus Culture. I remember as a 14-year-old kid, there was a song called You Won't Relent. It was a 13-minute track, and that song changed my life. if I had to tell you one song that changed my life, it would be that one. I would just play it on repeat in my room and encounter the presence of God. And he was singing that. And I think getting to meet him and write with him and talk life with him was so amazing because he's just got such a good heart. And I think it's actually, I've heard that expression before, but for all of these heroes of mine, I've been so impressed, honestly. I really have. Like Chris Kilala, another one would be Leland. I saw him at a Hillsong conference, would have been 2007 or something. I was a teenager and he was leading worship at the youth conference. And I remember him singing these high notes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to sing. Like, I want to sing like that. And he inspired me. And he's the funniest guy. Have you guys met Leland?
He's on our bucket list.
Oh my God. He has the best stories. He's got the most humble heart. And it's been a really cool thing meeting these heroes and just going, wow, I thought you were awesome, but you're actually even more.
Yes. So good. It's funny how when we're younger, we may not envision what the fullness of our potential could be. And so for you, like coming from a place of awe as to like, why did God choose me to do this? But why not? Was there anything going on that you were just like, I could never do that, or I don't deserve that? Some of the best songs come from those places of struggles. And so was there anything that you thought would prevent you from being able to fulfill this destiny?
Yes, absolutely. I think even writing from struggles is to do with that question, because there have been times where I don't feel like I'm worthy and I don't feel like I deserve to do it. And I remember in my early 20s, there was a season where this situation had happened the year before, and I was kind of coming to terms with it. And I was in a really low place, and I was depressed, and I didn't really have motivation anymore for anything. And it was a really hard season to walk through. And I remember just waking up every day going like, okay, I'm just like awake. And I remember in that moment, it was a slow process of going, I actually don't really want to write a song, but this is a gift that God's given me. So I just want to sit at the piano and just play how I feel. And I remember one day I played how I felt, and I said to myself, I'm not going to write a song, because I'd actually tried to that year and just gotten frustrated, and I didn't want to get more frustrated. So I remember just sitting down and going, I literally just want to play how my heart feels. And I was there for maybe 40 minutes at the piano, and this lyric came out, which I had never really said before. And it was, I may not have much left, but you provide. And it's the bridge lyric from this song called I Know Who You Are by Planet Shakers. And it was, that was the first time in my life where I had written a lyric that was truly honest, because I think before that time, I knew all the right things to say, and I knew all the, put on a happy face. But for that moment, it was like, I literally don't know how much I have left, but the faith element in connection with that was, I know that God provides. I know that He's a provider. So I think that was a moment where I was like, I don't feel like I'm worthy of this, but I just thank God that I have a way of communicating what's in my heart and getting it out. And yeah, I remember when that song was sung at church, that was probably the moment where I said to myself, and to God, if you can make a way for me to do this for the rest of my life, I'll do it, because I can't think of anything more special than writing a song out of brokenness, and then that being something that someone else can hold on to walk them through their season. So yeah, it was, I think that song in particular was one of those moments where I was like, I don't know what I did to deserve this, but I thank God, and I thank God that He gives us things to lead us through hard situations.
Was faith always a big part of your life?
Yeah. So I grew up, my dad actually wasn't Christian when he married my mum, and my mum always was. So when I was about 5, he found Jesus, and we started going to this Baptist church, Sindel Baptist Church. And I've got the best memories of it because we were just in the pews and we would go and sing these songs, and it was so joyful and happy, and it was a really good place. And I will never forget the Sunday school, those little felt boards.
Yes, felt Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Changing lives since the 80s.
It's kind of some like relic of the past. No one knows what that is anymore.
Yes.
But so we kind of grew up going to church every now and then. And then I think when my older sister, she found Planet Boom, which is the youth group of Planet Shakers.
Yeah.
Then our whole family went there, and that was just so amazing for our family because what I love about Planet Shakers and getting to grow up in that church was it is so passionate about faith and unwavering from faith. And I think what I loved about being in that environment was whatever we're facing, there's a choice to have faith in something. And I think I've learned that with songs, that sometimes we'll write songs from an emotional level. And if we just write it from an emotional level, there's nothing that actually lifts us up from our own feelings and our own situations.
Yeah.
So I remember a big part of me growing up was trying to incorporate faith into what I said and into what I sang. And that kind of overflowed into when I came to Nashville, because I noticed sometimes there would be rooms where I'm writing with these people and it just honestly wasn't faith-filled. It was kind of like, we're Christians, but maybe God is like this. And I think one of the things that I was really passionate about was I want to contribute to writing bold faith into songs, because I think there's nothing like faith and there's nothing like the word of God to encourage you and to cause you to lift your eyes above what you can see and to believe in something that's yet to happen. I think sometimes that's all we can hold on to when we're faced with, giants. And yeah, so I'm grateful that I've grown up in an environment of faith that's kind of outworking in songs now.
So I don't know how this works. And I kind of want you to, this is in my mind, how I see it going. You are an incredible writer. So let's just say Brooke and Brandon are sitting there at a table and they're like, okay, honey in the pot, honey in the tree. Do they then phone Mitch up and be like, Mitch, we don't know what to go here? He's like, what about honey in the rock? And they're like, that's it. And then you guys get together and write it. Like, is that how it works?
No.
Okay. That's fair.
That's a fail. Good try, Johnny.
No, but that was a really cool day. We were actually all in this room. It was such a cool day. And that is another example of me meeting one of my childhood heroes, Brooke. I just have grown up with her music for my whole life and I love it. And I remember Brandon texted me one Tuesday and is like, hey, bro, next week I'm going to be hanging with Brooke, and we were just thinking, would it be okay if we came over to your place and wrote a song? And I tried not to lose my mind. Play it cool. And I'm like, yeah, bro, that sounds great. Like, you're more than welcome. So the next week comes around and Brandon and Brooke are like in this room that I'm sitting in right now. And it was such a cool experience, because what I love about songwriting is this is how I normally write songs start. You start by just talk life. Like, what is God doing in life? I think some people are really quick to get to, what are we going to write today? Let's start with this verse. And I'm all about, hey, what's happening in your life? What's God doing? What is God speaking to you about? And I remember we were kind of just talking and sharing testimonies, and Brandon, all of a sudden, when we started fleshing out some ideas, he's like, yeah, this guy from my church came to me one day and he's like, you should write a song about honey in the rock, because it's in a psalm. It's in Psalm 83, I think. And then Brooke's like, oh my gosh, I just listened to a podcast, a sermon by Tim Keller on honey in the rock. And then when you've got that moment of connecting, it feels like it just creates this space, a vacuum where creativity just floods in. And I remember we would just all around this piano and we were just playing these melodies, and it was pretty effortless after that, to be honest. But once you have that spark of like, whoa, Honey in the Rock, what could that mean? It's like it's finding the sweetness of trusting Jesus in a hard place. And then what are some other examples of that? And we were talking about how in the desert where there's nothing growing and there's no water, there was manna on the ground every day. And when they were thirsty, Moses struck a rock and there was water that flowed out. And it's like, wow, God provides in really cool ways and in places that we don't expect. And I think it was an encouragement to our faith that trusting in Jesus is not always easy, but there is sweetness in it. And he will provide in ways that you don't expect, but it's for his goodness and his glory. And it was just, a really memorable day. I will never forget it. It's probably one of my favorite writing experiences ever. So,
and the piano's not been dusted since.
I haven't touched a key since.
Your wife's bringing in snacks. She goes, I got finger food.
No, funny you should say that because Steph, my wife, is a massive Brooke Lidgetwood fan as well.
Okay.
And we went to her Brooke Fraser shows in Melbourne. So we were like OG fans.
Yeah.
She was like so excited that she was coming over. So she made banana bread.
Aww.
And she brought it in and Brooke loved it. Like she's still to this day, whenever we see her, she's like, oh my gosh, that banana bread.
Phenomenal.
So it was good. It was a good snack that she brought.
What does your wife do?
So my wife is amazing. She sings, she writes songs, but most of her time is taken by an anti-human trafficking organization. She works
interesting.
for a consulting company that connects NGOs with politics and tries to give them a voice in the policy space, because there's it's an ever-moving, evolving issue. So there's a lot of awareness that needs to be raised. There's a lot of on-the-ground rescuing people that needs to happen. And there's also a lot of policy that needs to be enacted in order to support all of it. So, she has a history with, she was working for a politician in Melbourne under her wing. And now she's working under the wing of this lady who just is connecting all of these organizations and giving them a voice. And it's really awesome. It's actually been a dream of Steph's to have influence in the policy space of anti-human trafficking. So I'm really proud of her, and she's smashing it.
Wow. Do you ever feel like, man, what am I even doing?
Yes. I mean, you think about it, it's like, because it's a big issue. And what I love though is like God has given so many gifts and passions in different areas because there's so much need. And I think that's I wrote a song called Bloom, and for me that was it's actually on my heart a lot, because the song Bloom is all about the kingdom of God being in bloom and getting outside the four walls of the church. And I think we're in a time right now where we need to go, like we get recharged and refreshed and filled in church, but we actually should be blooming out. Like the kingdom of God goes out from the church in so many different ways. I think songs are a beautiful way of that. And a really like one of the obvious ways, I think, because music is so a big part of church. But I love that like there are people who are like my wife doing work in the anti-human trafficking space. Some of my friends are like a project manager of like building communities, like building the best neighborhoods, just all of these different ways where we're gifted and talented to do these things. And it's not like, it's all for God's glory. And I think a beautiful thing is, I think Steph is making a huge impact. And I think people who are feeding the homeless every week are making a huge impact. It's just a beautiful, I think the kingdom of God is like, it looks different there are endless ways that we can be, used by God.
It's almost like we have to approach evangelism this year in our faith, in this season, as tent makers. Like whatever God's given you, we used to think of like tent maker ministries as being overseas, but it has to happen in our own backyard.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, be a light to your neighbors, be a light to your friends, and to the people, like to your waiters. If they look like they've had a bad day, like,
tip well.
Pick them up. Exactly. Yeah. But it goes a long way. Every little thing goes a long way.
Yeah.
Speaking of beautiful, a beautiful ending, a blessed beginning. Do you find more pressure as an artist co-writing for somebody else's project or writing for your own? These are your own songs, your own music, your own thoughts being put onto an album that's all Mitch.
That was a really new experience for me, releasing an album, because up until that moment, I had just been writing for other artists and helping them express what's happening in their lives and their testimonies. And I actually had never gotten like a green light from God to release anything until this one night. I couldn't sleep until 6 a.m. because I had all of these downloads of these, like a blueprint of a project that would take you from a journey from burial to bloom. And it's such a biblical principle that we sow and we reap. And that little image of a seed is like this: you've got something precious, but then you have to let it go. You have to bury it in the ground. You can't see what it's doing. It's in complete darkness. And then you have to trust that in a few days or weeks that it's going to sprout and turn into this beautiful bloom. And for me, I felt this responsibility when I had those songs to look after them and protect that idea and to do whatever I could to make it as good as I could, so that when I released it, it would speak to people. Because I think that as artists, we get vision from God, and it's for the edification of God's people. And I really wanted to write songs and make a project that explained that concept, because I think as Christians, we sometimes forget that we have to die to ourselves before we can become a new creation. And it was probably just a reminder of that. There's a song that starts the album called Burial, and it's all about how I'm letting go of my past, of all the things of myself, really, and I just want to be a new creation for Christ. And that really is the heartbeat of the album. And I think I didn't feel a pressure like you would expect, because for me, releasing music relies on getting like a download of something to say. And I didn't really enter into being an artist being like, I'm going to like grind and just make album after album. I think I'm really happy in sitting in the space of, I had this revelation that I wanted to share. And until I have another one, then there's no pressure. The pressure is completely off. And I think when your music is grounded in obedience, then the pressure is completely off, because it can reach two people and it's still worth it because you've said yes. So I didn't really feel a pressure. Although I wanted it to I wanted to sing it well, and I wanted to communicate it well.
Right.
Because I think that when you work on the sound of it and the orchestration and all that kind of thing, it's like that really is the pressure to, I've got this idea and I don't want it to be hindered by my lack of like work to make this beautiful and something that inspires people.
I love that you were able to make the transition from songwriter to being able to be there and actually perform the music yourself. I can imagine there might be some nerves attached to that transition as well. What are some of your hopes, though, as you focus in the positive, right? We're all familiar with negative emotions, the self-doubt that can creep in. So what do you do to help mitigate some of those feelings, to keep moving ahead in what God is calling you to do?
Well, I think it's encouraging to know there's always something more to sing about. And always, like, God is never ending. it says sing a new song. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to write new songs. I'm going to sing new songs because I'm always finding out more of who God is. And I think as long as you keep it grounded in like, this is a joy. This is a joy to do life. And there's no pressure to like reach anyone. I just want to say what's in my heart. And I think as long as my heart is finding more, then there's always something more to say.
Beautiful.
Is it weird in the sense that when you write a song, you're writing a song for you and for God? You're writing a song that perhaps maybe church will find something from it. But then to have people be like, oh, Mitch, you wrote this song and, you know, God really spoke through this song to me. Is that weird for you because you're just writing songs that you think that the Lord has put on your heart, not even realizing the reactions that people listening will have from it?
That's like the part about this that impacts me the most and is so special because it really did start with that song by Plant Shakers, I Know Who You Are. That was the first one where I didn't write that for anyone else. I really just wrote that to be like, this is the song in my heart. And then to see that help people was amazing. And I think it's grown from there because as a songwriter, when you meet artists and you know, for example, in 2 weeks, I'm going to be writing for this person, you kind of pray and search for ideas that are specific to them. So it's actually really cool when you go to a songwriting room and you share a little idea you've been working on and they're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And that lines up. Like, have you read my journal? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I have.
Yeah. I like snuck in and read your journal. Like, but that's like the coolest thing. And I think it honestly has progressed from sometimes there are just songs where I don't need to write it for anyone. It could just be a song from my heart to the Lord. Sometimes there are songs for specific artists, but then sometimes I feel like, okay, I know that this person is going to sing to these people. So what did these people beyond this artist need to hear? And it's a really interesting thing of like praying into what people need to be encouraged by. And I think one of the best examples of that was there's a song called Believe for It, which I wrote with Kyle Lee and Dwan Hill and CeCe Winans. And Kyle and Dwan were producing the album and they had 12 songs ready to go. So essentially the album was done, but Kyle couldn't shake this feeling of, I think there's something more to say. And I think CeCe has an opportunity to speak into a time and a season with a message. So we kind of went away and prayed through an idea and we landed on this idea, Believe for It, of just, we were kind of in this season where we're locked down and it doesn't look like anything's changing and it was a pretty hopeless situation, but we were like, no, God, like move the immovable, break the unbreakable. We believe. And it was just a song of faith. And I think the beautiful thing is I've gotten probably the most feedback of that song helping people. And it just finds people in a time where they're this close and hanging on by a thread of not believing and just giving up. And then they'll hear a song or an encouragement. And let's face it, anything that CeCe sings is going to encourage your spirit. It's just no question.
It's guaranteed.
But that's been really cool. And I think when we were forming that idea, we were definitely thinking about the time that we were in and what could we have an opportunity to say. If God chose to use that song, what could we say to people in that time?
Before we let you go, I have an idea. Just
okay.
Oh no.
Okay. Just Holly, just let this happen.
All right.
I was thinking about maybe doing a song called 10,001 Reasons.
Oh my gosh.
If the first one was so successful, if we gave
that will be even more.
Yes, one more.
Thoughts?
Oh my gosh. Why don't we just get Matt Redman on and we can write it together?
There you
we
go.
talked to him a little while ago. He wasn't on board, but I figured that you and I mean, no. All right.
Maybe we'll leave that for next time.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah, right. At Mitch Wong Music on the socials. He wants to bring back the felt boards. We want to bring back the drimes. And next time we're in Nashville, we're having some banana bread. Mitch, my friend, this has been so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
It's like three friends sitting around, hanging out, talking shop and music and worship and faith. And I really enjoyed it.
Yes, that was so lovely. Honestly, what a kind heart. And just, I love his passion to not just like write songs, but to write what God is telling him to share with others as a source of encouragement and strength. And I just think that's such a beautiful posture to approach when you are a songwriter.
And I mean, you look at, he talked about Believe For It or Honey in the Rock or Believer with Rhett Walker, like over 200 songs that he's been a part of writing or co-writing that have impacted Christian music around the world.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Wow. I forgot to ask him this question though, and too bad we didn't have a little more time. I wonder if like, does he have, you know how you and I would have like maybe a couple friends in radio? Does he just phone up? He's like, hey, C-Tom, what's going on? Mitch Wong. You want to do, hey, Maddie Red, you know what I mean? I wonder if that happens or
maybe,
I didn't get a chance to ask.
Maybe next time. Do
you think there will be a next time?
No, not after your questions.
So either. Well, thank you to everybody who continually listens and downloads because as we were talking to him, we thought that this would be 10 episodes. We're creeping up to 300. We've been doing this over 6 years, and it's all because of the projectors.
Exactly. So thank you so much for being a part of the journey with us. Thank you to Integrity Music. Thank you to just everyone who's walked the journey with us.
Amen. Reach us on all the socials, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you want to do your downloads, and check out faithstrongtoday.com.